Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today we're looking at something we haven't looked at, because I've been busy with all manner of things. French battleships. This here is the Bretagne, the Tier 5 French battleship. Now, the reason we're looking at the Tier 5 is literally because I haven't progressed any further than Tier 5 on the French battleship line. And we're gonna get to as to why that is. There's also a very noisy airplane going overhead. I mean, not in reality, in the port. You can actually see it zipping by there occasionally. The Bretagne. What was she like historically? So she was a dreadnought, pre-World War I ship that, yeah, she was built in 1910, 1911 around about-ish. And she did a bit of blockade duties and a bit of shore bombardment during the First World War. But in the Second World War, she actually... let me switch the port, because that plane's really noisy. Second. Okay, that's better. I have to remember not to use the French port of Marseille because of that plane overhead. So where was I? Yes. In the Second World War, the French actually got kinda overrun by the Germans very quickly. And that made a big problem for the British, because while the Germans themselves didn't have enough in terms of navy to challenge the British supremacy of the sea, if they were to get their hands on the French navy, because the French surrendered, they would be in a bit more trouble, because together with the French navy they would be able to challenge the British supremacy of the sea. So the British decided that, well, since the French surrendered, either they were going to have to hand over their battleship to the British, sink them themselves, or the British would do it for them. So when they made that challenge toward the Bretagne, the crew of the Bretagne actually refused to hand over their battleship or sink it. So the British opened fire on her. And I think 3 battleships, including the Hood, were opening fire, and the Hood's 380 mils ripped through this thing like it was nothing, and very quickly she sunk with, I think, about almost all hands. So almost 1,000 French sailors died at the hands of the British, just to prevent her from falling into the hands of the Germans, which, yeah, really doesn't feel that great, does it? That was probably one of the less glorious events in the early stages of this war. So that's how she came to an end. Now, what is she like in the game? She's got 31,000 hit points, relatively low armor. So 10% citadel, 11 fine flooding, 10 damage reduction, a bit better torpedo damage, but that is, I mean, for a tier 5 it's okay. It's probably average for a tier 5 battleship, but it's not great. The speed, yeah, is typical for tier 5. No, you got 21 knots. You're not getting around very quickly. Now, usually around tier 5, you get shells around the 356mm caliber, but the Bretagne comes in with the 340mm caliber, which is relatively unique. Haven't seen that anywhere else. So she's slightly under the caliber, for example, on the New York, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything, because, for example, the 380 mils of the Bismarck, for example, are low caliber for tier 8, but she still does has a very good penetration with these things. The reload is decent. The range is kind of on the short side, and everything is relatively average. Now, the secondaries actually look pretty good. There are 20 of them. They're 139mm, but they're doing a relatively poor amount of damage for 139 mils, but they are just secondary guns. And their reload time at 10 seconds is extremely long. Well, you get a lot of them, but you don't get to use them very often. Now, I had the Courbet, the tier 4, actually as a secondary build, but given the range of only just over 5 kilometers with the Bretagne, I didn't feel that as a secondary build, because you did have to get too close, and your armor plating is rather average. As seen on the historical fact that the Hood's 380 mils just went straight through her. Now, if she hits something like the Bayern, right, that thing has 380 mils. The Warspite at tier 6 is 380. So, can happen. Anti-air is okay. Is not great. In general, she feels like a very average battleship for a tier 5. But then again, tier 5 is not the most exciting tier for battleships. So, in terms of elite ship bonus, I've just got with battleship modernization because it gives a couple more hit points. And it still gives us a bit more torpedo damage reduction. Her turn time is okay with 12 seconds, but nothing special again among all these things. So she's not particularly fast, which is weird because she does get the engine accelerator. So what's that all about then? Well, what does the engine accelerator do? It increases the speed by 7.5%. Now 7.5% of 20 seconds isn't very much. So while she gets a little bit of a boost, she is actually still really slow. So she has the speed of an American battleship at tier 5. How have I set her up in terms of module? I have the main battery mod 2. I originally went with the secondary bat mod, but again I found that the range is too short, and there's not much I can do about it. So I did end up reducing the main battery reloaders just a little bit more because I did find myself not really wanting or being able to get close with this thing just because of also her low speed. The second slot goes into generic damage control, and the third slot went into torpedo defense because she's not the greatest in terms of all of these things. Supplies, just the standard set for battleships. And my commander, so again, he came from the Corbeil. He's now on the Bretagne. I've got the underwater protection. I've got the torpedo alert, nothing surprising here. I actually have the high alert instead of the artillery maintenance, which I will often do. Because I did find that I kind of get damaged quite a bit in this ship, very frequently. I have the Victorious Charge to recover some HP. And I've got the fire supremacy because I'm setting him up for future French battleships. And if we're looking further down the tech tree line, at some point, no, this is still engine accelerator. Yeah, so with the Gascogne at tier 8, we're getting the rapid reloads. So I'm setting him up for that kind of thing. So, well, I got the camo on. It's vaguely blue, red, and white. So let's go for a battle. Okay, we're top tier. New York, another Bretagne, Omaha and the Phoenix, and 2 destroyers. Playing Golden Channel. So with our lack of speed, let's see where we're spawning, and then we'll head. We're gonna head center cup, or are we gonna try to go around the outside? We're gonna try to go around the outside. Or maybe center cup. Let's try center cup defense. Let's see how this goes. The gun turrets are relatively slow to turn, but that's again normal for tier 5 game. And what's our speed? 21.8. With the speed boost, we're getting up to 23. So, okay, yeah, if you're in a light cruiser, don't do that. Because you will get spotted because of your bloom, if you're unlucky, and then you're the first one spotted, and you're in a light cruiser. I would generally not recommend just firing your guns at the beginning of the game, unless you want to see if there's anything in range that can spot you, because that's one way to see it. So I'm spotted, which means of course there are destroyers in here. Haven't loaded the high explosive quite yet. In the hopes that we would see one of the cruisers first. But there's a Nicholas. Let's see what we do with the 340s at this range. Is he going straight? Looks like he's going straight. And we switch over to the high explosive. Overpens, yeah, as expected. So, slow down. Yeah, these torps are not going to hit us. Target locked. And see if we can give this Nicholas the good news. Is he stopping? Yes, he's stopping. Come on, reload. Where are you going? About there-ish? Ah, one hit. That was disappointing. Okay, he's coming around though, and there's only battleships here, so I'm gonna have to deal with this guy. Yeah, Omaha sets me on fire. Where are you, little? You little, there you are. Okay, second race, come on. Come on, accelerate. Piece of crap. There we go. Okay, that was close, but not close, but doable. Okay, and that should be the end of the Nicholas. Yep, okay, back to the armor piercing. Oh, hello, I didn't see you there. Yeah, sure. Okay, I'm gonna need to turn the ship around and actually do something. So we're now in a knife fight with pretty much everyone. Come on, turn. Turn. Yeah, I know. Turn. Can't do something about that. Might take a hit or two. I think that was just one torp. Okay, unfortunately now I cannot flank the New York as I wanted to. Well, let's see what these guns are doing at point blank. Semi-pens. Of course, we're now giving broadside to New York, but hopefully he's got something else to shoot at. That's a fire. Yeah, pretty decent. So the guns are workable. The armor isn't great. She's nowhere near as sturdy as the. Okay, there's a Citadel against the New York at close range. So if you get close enough, the guns are doable. Okay, you people can sink that, right? So I can deal with this other New York over here. The speed hurts, and they don't feel. Yeah, that hurt. Ow! You don't want to give broadside to these things. All right. Okay. Yep, that's not bad. So 3 kilometer, basically point blank, is where they are effective. And the secondaries take an age-long time to reload. But he should take some torpedoes from the German destroyer over there. Let's see if we can do away with him before he reloads. Okay, there we go. Well, that wasn't bad. So, are they as good as? Would I say she's as good as the New York? Probably not. I prefer the New York, honestly. But she holds her own at close range. At super long range or at mid range, not so much. We do get a couple of decent penetrations on plunging, so she is definitely workable. Her slow speed isn't the greatest, but that's a problem you have in American battleships as well. So see, that Bretagne there is the only one left. I found her armor in general to be a bit unreliable. You can have, yeah, that's what I mean. Especially the deck armor seems to be relatively weak, and I haven't fact checked that. This is just a feeling. But if you get lucky and you can get close in, she's definitely workable, and the guns are not that imprecise. That was a relatively decent spread. So that destroyer is probably going to get her, yeah. I find her occasionally working when you brawl with her, but you have to be lucky that you can get into brawling situations. You can use her as a long-range ship. She has relatively decent plunging fire with the 340 mils. I'm not super excited about her, but then again, I'm not super excited about any of the Tier 5 battleships, probably with the exception of the Congo. I personally still think the New York would be preferable because she feels a lot sturdier. But I'm going to continue down the French line at some point when I have the time. She is definitely a ship that can be made to work if you take the limitations in terms of armor and in terms of speed into account. So that's it for me today. That's the Bretagne. If you're excited about things higher up, I think starting about here with something like the Gascogne, that would be definitely much more interesting to play and to see, because these things actually have really, really good speeds, and they're actually very good at accelerating as well. So I'm going to go up the line. I'm going to get there eventually. Anyway, thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye.